Hello, and welcome to the Be Smart About Art show. My name is Susan J. Mumford, and I'm the founder of Be Smart About Art, as well as an entrepreneur. And this day, for this show, I am delighted to be here in my office environment, so I can look at all the things that I normally have around me, and I've repositioned myself. It's really important that you keep on working out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, and what we've worked out at Be Smart About Art is that actually, from a visual reinforcement point of view, with so many learners in our audience who are visual like myself, it's important that I don't just hold up the pieces of news each Monday for the art world this week, but that I also do some sharing for you. So that's what I'm going to be trying today. Let's see how it goes. This is going to be an experiment of sorts. I've shared things on Zoom plenty of times. What I haven't done before is shared things on Zoom, streamed onto Facebook, and seeing how that exactly has worked. But for today, we have got three, as ever, quite fascinating headlines. And I'm just thinking about what order I'm doing these in. I think I'll kick off with what legal rights do artists and galleries have in a pandemic. This is a piece from ArtNet News. It is talking about USA law, and I will mention some things more broadly as well. Secondly, in the art world this week, we have got That's Not Art, It's Victorian Porn, how one small Barbie doll took on the art world. So the previous piece was in Art News, this one is from The Guardian, and last but not least, a fabulous initiative from NADA. That's the New Art Dealers Alliance. I still know remember when they started over a decade ago, and they're doing amazing work supporting the gallery scene, particularly in New York, during the pandemic. So that comes directly from NADA themselves, and with regard to an initiative that actually starts tomorrow. No, pardon me, 2 days away on the 20th of May. So yeah, interesting stuff. Let's get started. I'm going to do a little screen share, and we are going to start with the legal rights of artists and galleries. There we go. And I am just going to be testing my screen to see if that is sharing on your screen as well. Just seeing if that is working. It looks like I've got a slight delay, and it does appear as though that is showing. Brilliant. Okay, so this piece is co-authored by multiple ArtNet News journalists. We've got Judd Grossman, Michael Strauss, Catherine K.B. Lucas, and Sarah E. Schuster, who reported on the 13th of May. They wrote, as a global pandemic unfolds, the art world is facing unique hardships. Museums and institutions have closed, the economy has slowed, and all participants in the art ecosystem have had to adjust their operations. Now, when we say closed, they meant in this context on a temporary basis. However, I have started to read about some institutions. There was a place in Philadelphia that was going to be closing. I know there was a theatrical location in New York that was closing. There are various places actually permanently closing now as well, which is very, very sad. Artists and galleries in particular are facing unique challenges. Some galleries are enhancing their online offerings. I would actually say many are, and others are exploring creative ways to keep people engaged with art and commerce. But with the art community's event calendar essentially suspended, or is it? My take is that some things are taking place online. Fewer people are buying and selling art, revenues are down, and some artists and galleries are already facing unsustainable financial pressures. Especially during this time of uncertainty, artists and gallery owners must understand their existing and continuing legal rights. And the way that ArtNet breaks down this piece is, if I just carry on in the article in the share, let me just find that for you. Again, this is news. This is good to be doing this. So if we move on to page 2, this is talking about physical artworks. This is talking about proceeds of sales. It's talking about gallery bankruptcy, event and real estate contracts, sales tax, and some possible options for financial assistance. Now, what's interesting here is they're talking about legal rights. That's really talking about what you have already been doing and what you had in place in terms of your planning. So they are looking at it from that perspective. What I would add to this is actually then what are you doing moving into the future. I've spoken with many galleries who've said, well, they're not quite sure if they're actually going to be applying for the state aid available from the USA because, well, their take was they could essentially spend the same amount of time generating some new business and that would actually be moving forward. That was their own personal perspective. I can see that a nice balance of claiming where you can so long as it doesn't cost you more than you end up getting in the end. As in, perhaps you could have spent the same amount of time for equal, if not greater, reward financially speaking. So, and actually, reward can be other ways as well. So, this is saying in New York, I'm just going to read you a few reference points from ArtNet News. And do, by the way, everyone, I'm going to really encourage people to comment, to ask questions. So, go ahead if you have any points to raise or any links to share yourself. Do feel free to share that in this live session today. And right, I'm just realizing something by the by, which is that I was actually on the wrong page. Okay, I'm going to keep on reading though. In New York State, a statute, the New York Arts and Cultural Affairs Law, and that is available. Yep, more information on ArtNet News, governs many important aspects of the relationship between art merchants, including galleries. Under this statute, whenever an artist delivers her artwork to a gallery for exhibition or sale, a consignee relationship is automatically created, regardless of whether there is a written agreement in place. Through this relationship, the gallery becomes a quote unquote agent of the artist and her fiduciary. In other words, the law imposes a duty of loyalty that requires the gallery to put the artist's interests ahead of its own. Very interesting. This is talking about thinking about who is paying for storage, the fact that when the gallery sells the work of art, that they still owe money to the artist, and it's essentially carrying on and on about how you think about your logistical issues, and let's say how will this look for times going forward as well. In terms of some other considerations, I think I just might delve a bit more into that point. One important result is that the gallery has a legal obligation to hold in trust for the artist's benefit any artwork that the artist delivers to the gallery for consignment. This is true even if the gallery makes a financial investment in the work or if there is an arrangement to share proceeds with the artist. To comply with its legal obligations, a gallery should keep regular records of the works in its possession, along with any related insurance documents. And indeed, you can imagine that insurance is vital during a period such as now. And if you've been reading some of the news, we know that there are some people unsuccessfully claiming on, say, travel insurance, even though they had taken it out. So where do people stand if they have taken out insurance for, say, interruption of business, that kind of thing. So it's very interesting to think about this. The current pandemic may raise other related questions regarding the physical handling of artworks between an artist and a gallery, especially in cases where consigned works are unlikely to be sold for the foreseeable future. Should these works be returned to the artist, placed in storage, and who should bear the costs of any needed storage or transport? That's what I was picking up on before. The answers may depend on the contracts existing between the artist and gallery. If the parties' contract does not provide clear guidance, they may need to negotiate a fair and reasonable arrangement. Now, that's interesting. What I want to say to that, and this is really my style, is reading a bit of the news and then commenting on it as well. What I would hope an agreement would have, let's say a consignment agreement, which Be Smart About Art will shortly have one available for people to purchase. What I would hope is that any kind of agreement would enable you to make changes if you need. Okay, that's really important. And what that means is that suddenly we've been hit by a pandemic that would require making changes that you were not previously anticipating. And I would think that in this scenario right now, because we're seeing people reacting in such different ways. I mean, you've got some galleries that have jumped online and they're doing new exhibitions and they're collaborating with artists for the artists to be doing studio visits and clever interview series and all kinds of things. But then some galleries have gone, right, we're going to hunker down and we're going to stay pretty quiet for the time being. Those are two very different scenarios. And I'm not saying that one is better or worse than the other one, but the point is that if you're an artist in that situation, what you've got to determine is it worthwhile for the pieces to remain with the gallery, or do you think that you need to get those pieces back? And bearing in mind as well, you're going to need to be really considerate of galleries' challenges as well. I know that many galleries have been losing their access to works of art that they've got in storage. Sometimes they might have temporary periods of availability where they can access their storage, but there are other issues at hand as well. And a lot of this you're going to really need to work with your professional partners on, okay? And it also means changes to the relationship in terms of how you work, who's expected to do what. So I actually think when it comes to the wider agreements in place, that you might need some updates. So you might need to put some updates in there. During the pandemic, who is responsible for doing what? Is it that the artist needs to be doing the fulfillment of the packing and the shipping? You know, that might very well be the case. And that's an interesting point. So you might have a pandemic specific arrangement where you say, okay, during the period that we're in this pandemic situation, bearing in mind that people on an international basis are going to be having different situations too. I was just in a call with somebody who's in Paris, and they're currently out of lockdown, whereas people in the UK are in lockdown, and in the USA, it really depends on what your state is. So absolutely fascinating. Just a few other points from this ArtNet article before I move on. We have got here gallery bankruptcy. I just thought I should bring this up. It's not the most enjoyable topic, but we have to think about the different possibilities. In addition to artist consignments, galleries must be mindful of obligations to collectors who own works that are in the possession of the gallery. For example, because the owner has consigned a work to be offered for sale through the gallery, or because the owner has purchased a work through the gallery but has not yet taken possession of it. Sales of art and related transactions are typically governed by a set of laws known as the Uniform Commercial Code. Now, bear in mind, this is talking about US law. Certain provisions of the UCC were designed to protect potential creditors of a gallery or other merchant. They become especially important when a gallery declares bankruptcy, which can sometimes lead to multiple creditors competing to recover some of the gallery assets. Now, this is fascinating because what happens if a gallery does declare bankruptcy? You have got, as an artist, you've got pieces on consignment with that gallery. Does that become an asset of the gallery that is then somehow is then sold by the firm dealing with the bankruptcy, so that then basically all of the creditors are able to equally access that piece, and yet the piece was still technically owned by the artist. So let me read you this. As for an artist whose gallery enters bankruptcy, NYACAL, again, this is US law, but let's think about how this applies broadly, provides artists with certain rights with respect to artworks or sell proceeds that are held by the gallery in trust for the artist. Because of this, those assets should not be up for grabs. And that's what I would really expect, putting some common sense to this, to satisfy other gallery creditors' claims. Thus, the artist will likely be in a strong position, at least as compared to, say, a general unsecured creditor. But an artist will still have to participate in the bankruptcy process because you'd be a creditor, which can be slow and complex, with many creditors seeking a share of what will likely be insufficient assets. So I think that's quite enough really to cover when it comes to the legal rights. But what I would say is that you can often think about these things from a common sense perspective. So it would make sense that if you had consigned a piece that still technically speaking you owned, that even if gallery went into bankruptcy, that would still be yours to possess and not for anybody else to access. When it comes to things like, well, how do you deal with the changing way that you're working? Well, think about it again logically, put into writing, even if it's not something formal. Hey, it's really great to speak with you. I'm really excited about starting this new online series of blah, blah, blah. Let's say there's an artist and gallery working together, and the gallery says, hey, artist, let's do these live sessions. And so you send a little summary email to say, hey, this is what I understand we're going to be doing during this period. You're going to be you will be expecting X from me. I'll need Y from you. And so you lay out basically what you've covered, and you say, really looking forward to developing this with you. Needless to say, there could be changes, but for now, I'll consider this to be how we're working together and what the expectations of my commitments are during the pandemic period. Let me know um, if I've missed anything or if anything you feel needs correcting, so that you get a confirmation email, in which case you do actually have contractual arrangement. And do note, what do we mean by the lockdown period? So some of those things you might even need to define, kind of like you often see definitions at the top of a contract. You can do it in a pretty general, casual way, but actually still affect something concrete. And that's really for the benefit of both involved parties. And thank you for the nice comments. And certainly you do want to think about these things ahead of time. And so think about how you're going to really be clearing up how you're working with people during this time. And bearing in mind, some people are quiet, some people are busy. If you're the one who's quiet and somebody else is busy, it might be that you're the one who takes it upon yourself. And we did commission the contract, the artist gallery contract template that we'll shortly be making available for people to purchase, because we were getting approached by a number of artists wanting to put in place contracts, which is incredible. It does mean that these are professional relationships in which you're working together, and whoever is going to be creating the contract is the person creating the contract. It's not to say that an artist in that situation always has to wait for the galleries. And I would say to the galleries as well, if an artist has got a great contract, why not consider going that? Particularly if you don't have something of your own. And if you both have contracts, what single agreement are you going to be working out as well? Not said as legal advice, but as common sense advice. I recently, for one of my businesses, was taking on a new bookkeeper. The bookkeeper sent through their letter of engagement. I actually have a contract. I didn't want those two contracts to in any way potentially cause any complications down the road. So I went back to the bookkeeper and I said, hey, thank you so much for your letter of engagement. We're incorporating all of the points into our contract. We'll send that out to you. Of course, it's open for conversation. Please send in your thoughts. And I trust that that makes sense. So making certain we had one agreement to cover that working relationship. Very interesting stuff, though. Very interesting indeed. Now we're moving on to, and by the by, that piece was headed again in ArtNet News from the 13th of May. What legal rights do artists and galleries have during a pandemic? And you can also see the link in the description of the Facebook live as well. Right, so now we are moving on to this Guardian piece. And you can see it's got this image of a Barbie, and her sign reads, "Yet another painting where the male gaze is legitimized by fine painting and brushwork." And this scholarly reference to classical history. Let me just read this to you, this piece by Nancy Lingham Hooper. This was published on the 16th of April, but still relevant today. She pops up in galleries denouncing prestigious works of art as pre-Raphaelite wet t-shirt competitions. Now art activist Barbie is taking her feminist message to social media. Museums and art galleries are not usually the sites of feminist political protest. Yet over the past couple of years before the lockdown, gallery visitors all over the UK had noticed a small, determined activist whose modus operandi is small signs, big questions, fabulous wardrobe. Posing in her most glamorous handmade outfits, art activist Barbie, try saying that 3 times as a tongue twister really fast, has been calling into question the representation of women on gallery walls and the lack of female artists in the country's most prestigious collections, from pointing out that the National Gallery in London has 2,300 works by men and only 21 by women, to calling out what she calls a pre-Raphaelite wet t-shirt competition. The doll has important points to make about the cultural norms we take for granted. And I really think that this is a fun, cheeky, in-your-face way of addressing something of importance in the industry. And why not do it with something that is visual and also a form of art as well? So you've got the art activist Barbie, and you can see the article kind of all through there, and it's quite amusing. So there we are, art activist Barbie. Go have a look on social media. Now, last but certainly not least, I want to bring up what the New Art Dealers Alliance is doing. The New Art Dealers Alliance are really showing what an incredible organization they are, and how much in support at the heart of what they do is really truly being seen today. And I am just amazed by this. I am really truly astounded by what has been produced by the New Art Dealers Alliance. So let me read this out to you. They have launched something called FAIR, FAIR, and starting on May 20th, it's going to June 21st, 2021. The New Art Dealers Alliance, NADA, is pleased to announce FAIR, built in partnership with ArtLogic. FAIR is a new initiative designed to be entirely online. And everyone, I'm just going to double check that this still is streaming the right page as well, because it's not looking right on my end. And act as a benefit for NADA's community of galleries, nonprofits, and artists. Taking place from the dates I mentioned, FAIR will directly support 119 NADA gallery members and 81 other galleries that have been financially impacted by the COVID-19 crisis. So what I'm really fascinated to see is how their cooperative sales model is going to work. So if you go to newartdealers.org, you will see information on this. What FAIR is offering as an exhibition that's taking place online is essentially a collaboration, and it's an alternative. They have an alternative profit sharing model structured to facilitate mutual support within the art community, and they're providing revenue to each of the participants during a time in which galleries have temporarily closed their physical locations. Let me read the cooperative sales model. 50% of each sale goes directly to the gallery, which is split evenly between the artist and the gallery. 20% of each sale goes into cooperative gallery sales pool to be shared evenly among all participating galleries. So whether or not that particular gallery is making sales on the platform, 20% of each sale goes into cooperative artist sales pool to be shared evenly among all participating artists. So they do have, it sounds, by the sounds of it, artists taking part as well, which actually I had forgotten. 10% of each sale goes to the support of the New Art Dealers Alliance, which means that NADA itself as an organization is remaining viable as well. And I'm really delighted to see that, because if NADA was taking nothing, I would be thinking, my gosh, it's great that they're trying to support the galleries. What about their own sustainability? So I'll read the summary of this to you, and then we'll talk through the idea and how you might be able to apply this as well. Each participating gallery will present a series of artworks over 4 weeks with the opportunity to share new artworks each week. So that's nice, you can keep it fresh. The initiative will also feature a series of online performances, studio visits, and talks to complement the artworks presented by participating galleries and artists. It makes me think of, there's an annual festival that takes place close to where I live. It's at Charleston, and Charleston is the house where some of the Bloomsbury Group lived back in the day. And the Charleston Festival each year has live poetry, live all kinds of things, all kinds of readings, panel discussions, lots of books for sale. And so they have a daily reading taking place, I think that's right, for 10 days of what would have been the Charleston Festival. And so you can still have interaction, you can still have new conversations taking place, as well as talks in relation to, say, exhibitions. So if you're presenting art online, are you doing tours of it? Are you talking people through it? It's a really important way to enable people to connect with you, your works, and what you do. FAIR, produced in collaboration with ArtLogic, utilizes ArtLogic's online viewing room service and is generously hosted by ArtLogic. So do check out newartdealers.org. My question to you is, here's this model where you've got some of the proceeds going to the galleries and artists who are selling the works. You've got some of the proceeds, a smaller proportion of proceeds going to the galleries who are participating, then a different percentage, that means the same percentage. So it's 20%, 20% for galleries or artists who are paying, I guess, to be part of this platform, probably. And then you've got a certain amount of proceeds. Actually, maybe they're not paying to be part. That's really good. And then you've got a certain percentage of proceeds going to support the organization that is behind the effort. So I think that that's a really nice model. It may not be exactly what applies to people, but how might you be able to collaborate with some other people in a way that you'll be able to make financial sense and stay true to the mission of, say, you collaborating with others? It's a fascinating consideration, and I really do suggest that you go. If you go onto newartdealers.org, you'll be able to go and experience this event called Fair, taking place from the 20th of May to the 21st of June 2020. And also do check out the specific URL as well, which is thisisfair.org. Again, that's thisisfair.org. I'm actually going to type it in and you can go have a look. So give that some thought. I hope that that gives you some interesting thoughts to consider for how you might even be collaborating with people. So we started out today's session talking about your legal rights, but I think also having a view as to what you can create to generate some income, not just reclaim income or protect yourself. You always want to protect yourself, but it's what are you doing to move forward, and what are you doing about what you already have, and how are you changing those agreements that you've got? Then we had this example with this art activist Barbie doll. So looking at how you can tackle issues in a quite fun, clever way, staying true to your what you do in the industry. And then thirdly, we're looking at collaborating with others and having these new different models for working, and which place you then put in the agreement. So that kind of takes us full circle. So everyone, I trust that was insightful and interesting. Be sure to go check out the Be Smart About Art community at patreon.com/Be Smart About Art. We do have an ever-growing community, and I'm now looking forward to our members gathering that takes place on Friday of each week. It's a private conversation where we can have fun, we can talk about important topics to ourselves, to our businesses, and support each other, generally speaking. Do keep an eye out for the Be Smart About Art show, airing Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of each week on Facebook, laterally to be shared as videos onto YouTube. We're here to support you, and if you're not able to commit to membership at the moment, take advantage of our free resources available across our social media channels at Be Smart About Art, as well as go check out Patreon, go follow us on Patreon. You don't even need to join to follow and get our access to our public posts, because we do have plenty to share with you. As we say, participate, connect, and grow. We're here to help you thrive in this ever-changing, increasingly changing art world. I'm looking forward to seeing you again soon online with Be Smart About Art. Signing out for now. Until next time.